So I think we should talk about things more like stability, like the responsible management of the absolute weapon, of these perilous and dangerous and horrible weapons, and speak frankly about them, but not give the impression that we are trying to reduce their role necessarily. We may try to minimize their role, but recognize that there's a certain equilibrium that will exist based upon the strategic situation that exists.
Center for New American Security is hosting this event in partnership with Defense One.
Jerry, I'd like to ask you the same question with regard to conventional capabilities. You recently released a report which drew from range that's looking at the decline in range in the carrier airmen. I think you alluded to some of the deficiencies in U.S. military capabilities as you see them. But what kinds of investments should the United States be making in order to ensure that it's prepared to operate in this environment that we've been stressing?
Well, there's three major themes that that emerged out of the report as I did the historical research in the back of it.
Retired Captain Jerry Hendricks
Was that the defining characteristics of the air wing, that as they emerged in the 1930s during the period of fleet experimentation, were mass, meaning the size of the air wing, how many airplanes can I actually put on the aircraft carrier's deck, how much ordnance can they carry or payload capacity, and then how far can those aircraft in mass carry the payload to be able to have an effect upon the opposing enemy fleet, or for that matter, enemy land forces. And that's governed the evolution of the carrier air wing throughout most of its history until we essentially reached sort of the post-Cold War era. And then we began to make a series of decisions. One saw the decrease in range as the A-12 program was canceled and the A-6 naturally retired. And then also some decisions we made with regard to a flat budget. When you have a procurement that's flat, but you have a steadily increasing cost per unit, then we actually saw the size of the air wing come down. So for instance, when I deployed on board a nuclear aircraft carrier in the early 1990s, we had an air wing that was about 84. At one point in time, we had an air wing that was 94 aircraft. Today, the air wing ranges between 62 and about 72 aircraft. So we see the overall size come down. But we're facing an environment right now where numbers matter. I mean, it not only matters with the carrier air wing, it matters with the size of the fleet. It matters with the size of the Army, as General Milley spoke of this morning so far. And the number of units in contact is something that we have to pay attention to, because you cannot be virtually present when it comes to some of these operations. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything has to be manned. I think that there is a role for manned, unmanned, and we do have to find some way of breaking that cost curve to be able to grow the size of the military. I think that there's a classic strategy, in fact, a strategy that emerged after, during the end of Vietnam. We were still actually in Vietnam, recognized that we saw some budget decreases coming, and we went with a high-low mix. And in fact, the F-18 Hornet and the F-16 came as matching aircraft in line with the F-15 and the F-14, that we knew that those were going to be very high-priced units that we couldn't purchase in large numbers. So we had to purchase these other aircraft in higher numbers so we could sort of fill out the air wings of those days. And so that high-low